Everybody come and join us. We're eating cookies. That's what's happening. Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for coming to Startup Grind OKC. And my name is Ashley Hart. And before we get started today, first of all, we have some special people to thank. We have special sponsors. And so, first of all, we want to thank Google. They're our global sponsor. And then we have a new sponsor, and so if you'll indulge me just a little bit, I want to really highlight them and talk about them tonight. And they're Heroku, and I'm going to tell you a little bit, and I'm going to read it. A longtime partner of Startup Grind is a cloud-based platform as a service that gives startups a powerful solution for building, deploying, and operating their business-critical apps. The Heroku platform is fully managed, meaning that we take care of servers, hardware, and infrastructure, so you can keep your team lean and focus on product. Heroku grows with your business. Use a range of free services to get established, and then scale up with increased usage. This year at Startup Grind, we're focused on educating not just startup founders, but startup teams as well. We're thrilled to partner with Heroku for Product Plus Engineering Month in October. At Startup Grind chapters around the world, we'll be supporting the technical side of startup teams. Hope you can join us. So we want to thank them. So yeah, we can clap for that. Okay. So we also have Rack 59, and we want to thank Brent for the cookies. And we want to thank, and yes, we clapped. Okay, you guys are going to have to help us out tonight. Oh, don't leave me like that. Okay, we'll get more cookies and coffee. Come on. We want to thank Insperity for the dinner. It was so good. Thank you for that. And we want to thank DD Audio and Project 3810. And we are at Project 3810, so thank you for this space. Oh, the speakers are DD. There we go. All right, and Deep Fork Technology, Nodecraft, Toner Refill, and Hoofi. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of work to get any of these events going, and so we want to thank our volunteers. So Rob Miles, thank you. Charn Langford, Vicki Langford, Ryan Groves, Aubrey Dillon, and Chris Dillon, and my name's Ashley Hart. So thank you for coming. So Startup Grind is special. It is a nationwide program, and this is our local OKC chapter. And I want to just talk about our values. We make friends, not contacts. We give first, and we don't take, so give first. And we help others before helping ourselves. And so today, I'm really excited because I have Deemah Ramadan here with us. And so I'm not just going to put this down. Everybody's been thanked. So Deemah has been doing so much entrepreneurial work in Oklahoma City for the past 15 years in the construction industry. And a lot of times we talk about tech when we're at Startup Grind, so I'm really excited to have a female founder here today in construction, and as she's going to lead us through her journey. And some really special things. She's been 6-time Metro Top 50. Isn't that amazing? 6 times. Not once, 6 times. And so tonight she's just going to lead us through that journey. And the journey really started, you're working for somebody else, and so let's start there.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and excited to be here. Thank you for your time. So my journey started right when I finished college. I finished college right after the '01 tech bust. And so there wasn't much out there. My major was interior design, and it was really hard to find work out in the industry. And I started working for a small firm. I was her only employee, and we were working for Singular Wireless. So I got introduced to construction very early on. We were doing interior design and commercial space planning, systems furniture, and inevitably, anytime Singular went into a space, we had to finish out the white box, which is called tenant finish. So I got introduced to construction very early on. 18 months into my employment, she closed down her business.
Wow.
And so I got that email that said, you got your 2-week notice. And lo and behold, it led me down this path of starting a business. My sister, who worked for Merrill Lynch at the time, came by the house at the time, because that's where I was working, from my own home, and picked me up and forced me to go open up my DBA, which my first company was D-Design Inc. at the state of Oklahoma.
So we owe your sister a thank you.
I owe
Shout
all
out
my
to
sisters. Thank you.
your
All four of
sisters.
my sisters and my parents. They were very key in making that happen for me.
So I think that's one thing is that when we talk about the grind is we need to talk about community. That it's one thing to go out and do it on your own, but a lot of times it takes community from all of us to say, hey, we want to help you, let's go. And so for you, it started with your family and your sisters.
I had no idea. I actually, the whole time on the way to the state of Oklahoma, was telling her, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't start a business. I have to go work for a licensed designer and an architect and get my license as a designer. And it was very funny. I was like, just pick me up, let's go to lunch. And before I know, we're standing at the Secretary of State, and she looks at me and says, what's the name of your company?
And that's actually a lot harder than you think of coming up with it. You're like, especially if it's on the spot, like now fill it out. Like now I need brilliance and a creative name. Right. So what was the first name?
Oh, it was D Design Inc. It was very just basic, nothing exciting.
Yeah, perfect. So a lot of times in the startup we talk about investment, we talk about money to start your businesses. When you have kind of a unique story about how you started financially, right?
Yes, so D Design Inc., I went on to have a full-time job with a local home builder, and that's when I went on to meet my business partner, who was a builder out there in the field. And I had turned in my notice at my past employment, gave them a 4-month notice, and I sheepishly convinced them that I was giving them 4 months to replace myself and hire my replacement and train them, when reality was I need to go find a job. And so I had my design business. I was working on the side. My boss knew that, and I had a restaurant that I had designed and got the permit in those 4 months, handed him the permit and the floor plans and said, okay, you can go build this. And he said, well, why don't you build it? And so that's when, during those 4 months, I was looking for a job. So it came down to May. I had an offer from Hartford Financial to go manage 750 salespeople, or I could start a construction job business. And so that's when I made that call to my parents, talked to them, and my dad said, what are you going to do? And I said, I think I'm going to go work for Hartford. It's good pay. It's good. I guess 30 days paid time off. He said, are you going to like this? And I said, no. I said, hell no. And that's when my dad, who's a pediatrician, gave me the speech of, you got to do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. And so that's when I decided to go out and start the construction company, and we didn't have any money. I took the remaining $8,000 out of my savings account, paid the penalties actually because it was a IRA, and so I think I probably had maybe $5,000 left on that. And I had to go and rely on credit cards because I didn't. Well, the banks, my parents said they would help, and I didn't want to do that route. Right. So I ended up within probably the first year, I had 16 credit cards. I had a business, you know those business card holders that hold 12 business cards? I had 1.5 of those. And so every time we had to pay a bill, I would pull one of those out, and I just knew which one was maxed out, which one had money, which one was sending me those checks. Those were awesome, those little paper checks that you could go cash and make payroll. Yeah. So that's how the business started.
Yeah. Are y'all okay? Isn't that amazing? And so you're starting in the construction world too. Yes. And so you're coming in and saying, I'm a designer and I'm going to build. And I've got 16 credit cards.
That are all maxed out.
That are all maxed out.
My client, our first big client, that restaurant, didn't pay us completely. So we had to sue him. And so that was the majority of my debt, was I had to carry his project for 5 years until we finally won in court. Oh, wow. Yeah, so the best part was, on top of all that, is we started May of 2007, and we all know what happened September of 2007, the market crashed. Right. So right about September 07, market crashes. We're at least through 8 or 9 credit cards by that point. Client payments have stopped on the restaurant, and restaurants are not cheap. No. And then the market crashes, and we just look at each other. My business partner and I were at lunch, and we're like, what do we do now? And so we didn't know what to do. We're like, we quit our jobs. We have no money. Yeah. We're making rent on a credit card. God bless apartments that take credit card payments. Yeah. But that's where that grind that comes in, and that passion. And it's just knowing that you're not going to turn back.
Right.
We can't fail now.
So what is that? That's a characteristic of somebody. And so what was that in you how did you get through that? Like, not just the nitty gritty of numbers and credit cards, but how did you persevere through that? What did you have to do in your soul and to push past?
That's a great question. I want to say probably a little bit of my stubbornness. I wanted to show everybody that I wasn't going to fail.
Yeah.
So that was really important for me, is being able to succeed and knowing that I had no other way out. There's no other answers. And my ego wasn't going to allow me to go out there and start pushing a resume and finding a job and tell everyone, yeah, I started this business 3 months ago and it failed already, and now I'm a couple $100,000 in debt. So all we knew was, let's go get the next job.
Yeah.
There'll be a little bit of profit on that one. We'll pay down debt and we'll just keep on moving.
And keep moving. And so, being in the construction industry, how did you push through barriers? Because I think, as entrepreneurs, we all have barriers. And a lot of times those barriers are ones that we create in ourselves, and sometimes they're society barriers. So how did you cross barriers being in a construction world?
Brand was number one for me. I wanted to establish a great brand. I had an incredible graphic designer that helped us get a brand going. My friend from college, who's a broker, I told her that I had to have a building on Broadway. And she goes, why Broadway? And I said, because Broadway in New York is huge. When you say Broadway, you're somebody. Mm-hmm. And I said, so I need to have that Main and Broadway vibe. And so Broadway is our main street. Awesome. And so that was, for me, a little bit of it was looking bigger than I really was. So having the Broadway name, we put our new logo across our 12-foot storefront. And everyone's like, we see your name everywhere. And I was like, no, you don't. It's because on the way to the Thunder games, you're sitting there on traffic on Broadway staring at mine.
It's the only thing you can look at, right? Yeah.
So it was just fake it till you make it. Being bigger than you really are.
Absolutely.
And having, your passion is really what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And so we just took our passion and put it in a visual format. That's
incredible. And so you made it past that first hurdle. You have your storefront. So how do you go from making it, faking it, to now thriving, now being a company that's 1 time Metro 50, 2 times Metro 50? How did you make that switch?
Systems. So systems. And just blood, sweat, and tears, time. We were working 6 a.m. to midnight. And we had an incredible team. We put a great system into place. I hired interior designers because that's what I knew. I knew they were type A people. And so I put a test together because interviewing was really hard. And so I put this, I had the first interview, second interview, the third interview was a test. And I realized that test, really, I was able to find some incredible teammates. And that's really where we took off, is we put together this great team. There was that startup vibe. They're all excited to be a part of a startup. We had this cool office with this orange floor and stark white walls. And we had 4 desks in the place of where my one little 3-foot desk used to be. So we had this 1,200 square feet space that was so big and empty when it was just me and my business partner. He was always in the field, so I was in the office most of the time by myself. And then I would go out to the field and lock the door. And so I always wanted to put it by appointment only because our door was locked all the time. Right. Everyone's like, we came by your office. I'm like, yes, we're in the field.
We're not here. We're working. We're working. So let's talk about, because I think 2 things is, how did you know you had the right business partner? We see that a lot in startup, is how do you partner with the right people? Because when you're partnering with them, Shane Kimpton was here, and he talked about these business partners as like it's almost a marriage relationship.
Yes.
And so how did you go about knowing this is the right business partner for me, and how did you build that relationship?
So It was by chance that I met him. He was a superintendent in the field, and when I was working for the home builder, they had some office space that needed TI work. And it was a commercial space, and he was the nearest superintendent. And so that was just, I don't know if you call it fate or by accident. And so when I was scheduling subcontractors to come do that TI for me, first I needed subs. And so I called him, I was like, I need some good subs, this and that. And he was like, well, this is residential, you need commercial. So I was like, yeah, but I need you to help me gave me a list. I made all these phone calls, told the guys to meet me at 7 a.m., no one shows up. So the next day, he calls all the guys, and I show up, and the guys are like, where's Frey? My business partner. And I said, oh, he'll be here. And so that's how I met him. And that is, it's one of those things that it is a marriage. And they're a good partner when you can yell and scream and cuss at each other, and then 5 minutes later, you're having a decent conversation. And so we always call it work family. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of bad words that get exchanged in the heat of the moment. And when you're working 12-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days with that same person, it gets pretty rowdy. And so that's when you know you have a good business partner. When you can have a screaming match, and then 5 minutes later, you act like, okay, yeah, we're good.
So don't be afraid of the mess, right? It's going to be messy and imperfect.
Yes.
Yeah. So what, as we talk to our crowd, either through video or here, what is your first good hire? Like, who should we say? Like, what's your first good hire? Like, you branched out, now you're like, okay, it's not just me. Who's the first person I should hire?
That's a double-edged sword.
It is.
So I don't remember who it was. A very famous person said, if I could do it all over again, I would hire a CPA and a lawyer first. There's no money for that in a startup.
No.
And so if I had to do it all over again, I would probably hire a CPA and a lawyer. But really, your first hire for us was superintendent in the field was our very first hire. Yeah. And then project coordinator in the office. Yeah, and so it's your front line. That's who you hire, which is the scariest hire ever.
Right, because now they are your mouthpiece in your
They're in between you and your client.
In between. Yeah. So how do you build culture through that? As you're adding people, you're building a culture of your company. How do you portray those values so that they can go out and represent you well?
Well, we failed. We did not have any values. We have them now. I wish I had, I'm in a group now called Entrepreneurs Organization. And since then, we've implemented traction and core values. And I had none of that back in 2007. For us, it was that family environment. Both of us grew up in big families. We're one of six. He's one of six. And so we just had that work family ethic. We'd bring lunch in. We'd stay late and have dinner. We would host a Halloween party and watch the parade. And so it was just building that environment of going out and doing fun things together.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's important because it is a grind. And you've got to come up to breathe. So it sounds like to me that was the balance between the grind and being able to breathe was doing it as a family would.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's really unique. So now you're adding more hires. Mm-hmm. So at what point did you make it to the Metro 50 for the first time, and what got you there?
I think our first time must have been 2010. And I remember because when we found out we were going, things seemed to happen in threes. And that day, we won a bid project for the Thunder retail store at the arena, which was huge for us because that was a bonded job. And back then, we had to struggle to get a bond for $850,000. And that was our first $800,000 bonded job. We had done several multi-million-dollar jobs, but bonded, we didn't have it. So we won Metro 50 that day. We got that bonded job, and there was one other one that I do not remember. But man, we were on cloud nine. Yeah. It felt incredible, and all the pain and the heartache and the hours and the time just went away, and that adrenaline, so that runner's adrenaline came through, and I was like, I got to do that again. because, I mean, it was addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, it was total, that feeling in that someone walks through the door and they have that bottle of champagne and they're like, you're going to Metro 50. And you're like, what? Okay, great. When is it? We're going. It was a party. And so we bought a table and we all got dressed up. So it was that whole family environment.
Right. Yeah. So since then, you've done, Dunlap Codding, right? And Chick-Fil-A. And so how did you go from those to getting major, Chick-fil-A is a major franchise. So that's, to me, that's national. Yeah. That's the next step. How did you do that?
Phone calls. I tirelessly made phone calls and got on lists to work for Chase Bank. Oklahoma City, in the state of Oklahoma in general, is a tough town because in the construction world, it's a good old boys club. It's who you went to college with. It's who you play soccer. I'm sorry. It's who you play golf with. I don't play golf. I play soccer. Nobody plays on.
I'm great with soccer. Let's just keep it at soccer.
I've made no deals on the soccer field. But it's who you play golf with.
Right.
And so for me, I was in my late 20s, and I went to school in Ada, Oklahoma, so there wasn't anyone in the city I knew. I didn't golf, and so I wasn't just miraculously going to get a construction job randomly on the golf course. And so I knew at that point I had to start calling and filling out applications and just putting ourselves out there, our name. We were bidding, so we were 50% private, 50% public market at that point, and that's what got us through the 2007 recession and the 2013 recession. Wow. And I think overall it was just grit. We wanted it more. So all those times that the underdog wins, that's what we had. When I was in college, I went to OSU. In 2 years in a row, we beat OU. And one of those years, we lost every single game except one. And we beat OU. And that's all that mattered.
Right? Yeah.
And I took that same grit from what I felt at OSU during that game into my business.
Right.
It was, we're the underdog, and you know what? When the underdog wins, it's just a much better win. Everybody is excited at that point. It's not just the team that's excited. Everyone's excited for you because you're the underdog.
Yeah, and I love that you embodied that instead of being upset about it or bitter, like, oh, this is unfair, or, meh. You're like, yeah, I'm the underdog. I'm going to take everybody out. That's a different attitude. And I love sports. So, yeah, the sports works for me. But in sports, when that underdog wins, even if it's not your team, you're like, well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, and there's adrenaline and there's fuel in that. So that's pretty amazing. So now, where do you go from here? How do you keep pushing yourself?
Well, we cut a lifeline. We quit doing public jobs. We only went private. So we cut public jobs because they are just break even most of the time. Even we lost money. It's just a rough arena. And so that was a good and bad choice. It was an immediate bad choice because it cut my revenue in half for 2 years, but it enabled us to rebuild our team and enabled us to really focus on how to get that private market. And so we've had 2 really hard years, and we're coming out of it now. We're finding that we started out as design build group, and we started out as design build jobs, and away from that. And so in 12 years of business, I've noticed we were going to the public market because we had this amazing system, and we were having to bid $75 million worth of work just to win $8 or $10 million. And that's a workhorse to do that. And we were doing that with 2 young women estimators that had no experience in the construction field, that were trained in-house, and we were so proud of our system and our ability to crank out these projects. And we stopped that, and it was a roadblock for us, and we had to overcome that mountain and that hurdle, and now we're just coming out of it, and it's been great. We found our niche, and so we're expanding to Dallas.
Wow.
So we've had a couple of Dallas jobs. We're doing a job right now in Fort Worth. And so we're expanding down there. We're noticing, to get noticed by your regional and national, their reps are out of Dallas.
Yeah.
And so we have inadvertently gone to Dallas to get Oklahoma work, because to get the attention of those regional people, you got to go to Dallas.
Right.
And then inadvertently, they're like, oh, can you do that project in Oklahoma?
That would be great. Let me think. Yeah, I think we can.
I might upcharge you, but yeah, I think I can handle Oklahoma.
Yeah. Upcharge. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So let's kind of talk to our community a little bit. Now that we look back, as we've kind of talked through your journey from, your sisters. I just love that picture in my head of the sisters going, "You're coming with us." Like, what's the name of your company? To now you're expanding, and I mean, you've kind of hit that pinnacle. And so, looking back at entrepreneurs sitting here, what is some good advice? Like, when you're in the middle of the grind, what would you tell them to get them past the hump?
Find your motivation. Find what gave you the push to go out on your own, to quit that paycheck that came in every 2 weeks, and go back and remember that. What made you start? What was the reason that you started? For us, we had said that there's a ton of general contractors, and we heard it. Everyone's like, who needs another general contractor? Literally. Right. We faced every brick wall that there was. And we set out that we wanted it to be an amazing experience for the client and the community. And I have put that up on my wall. And so my clients see it when they walk in. There's another logo that I put, or slogan that I put on the wall: where there's a will, there's a way. My parents raised us that as long as you have the will, you'll find the way. And I always just go back to those fundamentals of how I was raised, and the fundamentals of why we started the business and we raised the business.
Yeah.
And honestly, sometimes you just got to go take a little vacation, even if it's a staycation. You got to leave the office. You got to not go back. You got to turn off your cell phone.
Right.
And that's when I find that I do my best, is when I step away and I'm able to look above the weeds and, kind of see the forest for what it is. Right. And not just the trees.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we get tunnel visioned, and we get so focused here that the big vision and the big picture gets lost. And when we lose that, we have no idea where we're going.
Yes. You got to take that deep breath and just know that it's just another sprint. I always say that I feel like I'm sprinting a marathon. And you're going to have low times. We had many, many low times, starting from 2007 when the market crashed and my client didn't pay us, to 2013. We had $1,000 left on our work in progress, which is about an hour's worth of work. You talk about doom. That was doom. I literally was doing the accounting, working on our work in progress, and I think I texted Frey, or I called him, and I said, we have about an hour's worth of work, and we got payroll for 12 people tomorrow. And we didn't give up. And the best part was, he didn't run away, right? I didn't run away. And so that was where that partnership came. He's like, don't worry, we got this. Something's gonna come through, we'll figure it out. And we did. Ironically, we got a fax, and it was July of 2013, so it was after the May 2013 tornado. And one of the girls in my office brought me this sheet of paper. She goes, I thought it was spam, those spam that says, but she's like, it says City of Moore admin building. And I look at it, and they want your portfolio by tomorrow morning, or the end of the day. It was some crazy deadline. And we literally turned it in at 4:45. We faxed it. And I don't know why we're still faxing in 2013, but construction, we're still faxing. I had to up my fax line in 2013. Thursday morning, we had an interview. And in that interview, they asked us about our bonding capacity. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but they said, what's your bonding capacity? Well, I knew about the project size. I said $8 million. And my business partner's sitting next to me, our estimator's there, and their eyes are deer in the headlights. And I am literally like kicking them under the table.
Yes, it is. Yes,
Like,
it is.
Don't say anything. And then we walk out of there, and he's like, well, what happens if we get the job? I said, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
I don't care right now. I need payroll money. That's all I need. And so we did. We made it work. We figured out how to get an $8 million bond. We got the project done, and we actually finished the project for $5 million. So we were very happy that we got to save the more admin schools
Yeah.
a couple $1 million. And so
Yeah, that's huge.
that was a big win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we were 5 years in. So we're at that 5-year mark in 2013, and 6 years actually. So we had made it. We'd already celebrated. Oh, we made our 5 years. We're going to be fine. And then we have no money coming in. And I just want you guys to know it get the desperate times, and you just gotta pull inside of you and find that energy, that passion, and it'll happen.
Yeah.
It just
And check your spam folders. That's amazing, though. Like, I thought this was spam.
I wish I had that piece of paper. I would frame it. That piece of paper is worth $5 million.
Right. That's amazing. Timing's everything.
Well, our slogan is details matter.
Yes.
So thank God we did have one core value that it was on our logo, details matter, and thank God our estimator paid attention to that. So
paid attention to the small things. We wait for these huge, big things, but a lot of times it's the small things that change the course of our business. And so I think that's what I take away from that.
Yes.
Pay attention to the small things. So that's really good. Well, let's talk about Oklahoma City.
Yes.
You live in Oklahoma City. I live in Oklahoma. You all live in Oklahoma City. We love it. So let's talk about being a business owner, though, in Oklahoma City. I think for those of you who are watching, you would be surprised at what it's like to be a business owner here. So let's talk about that.
Well, I had a very smart man that told me once that he said, you can be a small fish in a big pond and go to Chicago, or you can be a big fish in a small pond. And I've been running away from Oklahoma since I was 14 years old, and I've never made it out.
No.
And I love it. And I had all these different things that just my family was keeping me here. And then Governor Keating spoke when I went to college right before I joined. I attended the university, and he was speaking, and he talked about how we have, you guys are our future, and the students have to stay in Oklahoma. And I was like, not me. I'm getting out of here the day I graduate. And then the market crashed, and then nobody's hiring in the architecture and design world. I just had everything telling me to stay in Oklahoma. And then when Mr. John Santori told me that, and we were probably a year into our business, that meant everything. I was like, you're right. You're right. And Oklahoma is so embracing. It's a big state. It has that small town feel, and they support you. Yeah. In Chicago, you're not going to get that support. New York, good luck.
Right.
And so there's a reason we've been named on the Forbes list for best city, top 10 cities to start a business. Because it's very supportive. You have your chambers that are incredible. Right. The banks, you have a lot of local banks that are willing to take a risk on you.
That's true.
The small business loans are a great place to start. So I would not have changed anything. I would, if I had to do it again. Yeah. I would start a business again in Oklahoma City.
You would tell the 20-year-old self, no, you're good here.
Yeah.
You're going to be good here. Yeah. So is there anything up and coming in Oklahoma City that you're really excited about? Maybe not business-wise, but just in general?
Our growth. I love the density that's happening in downtown Oklahoma City. Scissortail Park opening. Gosh, we had a major concert.
28,000 people.
That's huge. Incredible. It's huge. That's the size of our arena, or actually bigger.
I think so, yeah.
Our arena sits 17,000, like 238 people, so.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So just all the great things, the investments that are coming back, the large companies that are investing, the big buildings that are going up, the people living in downtown and riding bicycles to work.
And the scooters.
And the scooters.
I'm terrified I'm going to hit a scooter between the scooter
I'm
and
on
the
the fence about
streetcar.
the scooters.
I'm like, maybe we'll go
Orange
down and
heels
we'll
and
try.
scooters don't work.
They look scary to me. I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like ride it into one of the streetcar cracks. That's what I'm afraid of, if I'm really honest. But it's just been a really a fun time as we watch the city grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for everybody to know, again, like when you're trying to grow a business here, not to get tunnel vision, but to look up and enjoy the city that you're living in. Because when you do that, you're fueled to invest in your city and keep going in your city.
And all the cities around us. I mean, Edmond, Norman, Midwest City, Del City, Yukon, Mustang, even Ada, Shawnee, and Tulsa. I mean, wow, the gathering in Tulsa is getting some national acclaim.
It's really amazing.
One of the best in the world. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, it's really exciting. Edmond, they have I think it's once a month that's sponsored by Citizens Bank.
The Herd on Herd.
Thank you, Herd on Herd.
Yeah,
That's
it's an
incredible.
amazing event.
Really fun, outdoors. What's great is we have 10 beautiful months out of the year to be outside.
That is true.
Chicago has about 5.
Yes.
And so they have to get their entire summer and fall and spring into 5 months, and we have 10.
Right.
I can't beat that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good place to live and to build the business. Was there anything that you want to add from your story or just to give out, and then we'll start doing questions. But is there anything that I might have missed that we want to go back to?
You're gonna trip and fall. I had employees that thought they could do it better than my business partner and I, and they turned on us and went to my biggest client. I had 2 superintendents that tried it. So you're going to face it. You're going to face the ultimate that you never thought. When you have your biggest client call you and say, "Why is your superintendent sitting in my office?" Your heart drops into your stomach and you think it's the last day of your life. And you pick yourself up off the floor and you figure it out. And the power of "I'm sorry" and apologizing, "I'll take care of that, I'll fix it," should not go undermined. I mean, it's really important. Your client is always right, even when they're wrong. And that's the hardest part as a business owner. Sometimes you have to fire your client.
Yeah.
And Doug Sirocco taught me that one, of Dunlap Codding. And so I would just say, find your support system, find the people that believe in you. My family had more faith in me than I had in myself. I never thought I'd start a business. I actually didn't want to start a business. I fought her the whole way through. She walked into the house and pulled me out of the house and was like, "You're going to the state of Oklahoma to open up a business." Wow. And the entire time I was giving her every reason under the sun why I should not start a business and how I would fail at it. And I didn't know how to make a sale. And I had one sister got me business cards and a laptop. And one of my sisters, she's the reason Design Build Group, which is now DBG Construction, started. She got me my very first construction client before the restaurant. And she's no longer with us today. And I always think of her every day and know that if it wasn't for her, I would not have a business. And the best part is she said, "Deemah, I told my friend about you, and he needs some work done. And I told him he had to pay you."
Don't we love people who say that? Yes.
If he doesn't pay you, I know his wife.
I know his wife.
So that's it.
And that's how you started. Wow. Well, that's amazing. Well, let's open it up to everybody else and let's see if we have any questions. Brent, you have the cube.
That means I get the first question.
You
okay,
do.
so I was looking through your social media, and the fact that you come from a design experience, you mentioned that your marketing, your branding was so important to you early on. You guys are diving into the Dallas market where it's literally construction mecca, and you're now somewhat a small fish in a big pond. How is your marketing changing? I just noticed in one of the posts that you put up talking about designing spaces for social media, because the influence that we have in 2019 for gaining new customers comes from what they see, whether they're on Instagram or Facebook or whatever that might be. With your design experience, how does that play into offering design ideas and concepts to a potential client to help them understand utilizing space in that manner?
Thank you. That's a great question. Well, so construction, I would say, is one of the oldest industries, if not the oldest, legal industry
Exactly.
in the world. And
I like how you added legal.
and so we had to diversify and be different. And so that was our different, is going in and helping people understand their space and how they interact with their space, and then bringing in their brand. And so for us, we like to work hand in hand, just like from their social media. So Carlisle Foods, their space hadn't been touched since the 60s, and they run 3 shifts. And so the very first question I sat down with them before I even said, what are you guys looking for? What's your budget? What's your core values? What do you want to offer your team? What is your culture? And so we build their culture, their values, and their just their logo into the space. And it was so interesting because Carlisle is an international company. They have an amazing brand. It wasn't on a single wall. But when we left, their core values were there. We worked with their marketing person. We put their core values, and their marketing guy was so great. He took their core values and we put it on the wall. I kind of gave him some inspirations of what I was wanting. He was the brain. And he did exactly, it's like a word puzzle, like a word art, but then he put Carlisle inside of his core values. I was like, genius. So now he took his core values to the umpteenth level.
Yeah.
And then we put their big sign. We took pictures. So we went in, I took my photographer, and we took pictures of their, they have these big $500,000 machines that stamp out, anyone that was bussing tables, that comes out of Northeast 36th in Santa Fe. Right here in Oklahoma, those where you put all your cups in, the plastic coffee things, Oklahoma.
That's good.
That's amazing.
So I was like, let's put those on the wall. So we took a picture of their big machines, and we put it on a piece of stainless steel and stuck it in between the bathrooms, because you go there all day long.
Yeah.
And so now they can be proud of the space that they're working at. 3 shifts. When you're at 4 a.m. and you walk by that sign, so the president came through, they call me every year. Where's that place you printed that at? Can I get more of those? I'm like, you guys know I'm not a print shop, right? I build stuff. But that's, to answer your question, is taking it to the next level and incorporating their brand that they just didn't even know how to incorporate, because their marketing person is so focused on the outside.
Right.
This is what the outside looks. They're not focused on the inside. And so that's what kind of catapults us to be different than other general contractors.
Yeah.
And that's where my design was able to come in, my interior design and space planning. It was amazing. We created these vinyls because they're on a budget. So we created these vinyls when you walk in. And I told him, I said, let's do something like Andy Warhol. So he used their blue and red colors, and you see the liquid plastic flying in and creating this bussing, holder. It's a piece of plastic, and look, it's a piece of art now. Same with those coffee. Next time you're at a conference and you see those black coffee things that keep your coffee hot, we glorified it. We made it look like a gem. And now they're rolling it out all over the place. And to me, that's the legacy that I love, that we've left, to know that other people's environments are going to be improved on spaces that I didn't even build.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Oh, are you going to answer? Are you asked a question?
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. And then we're going to just throw it around, raise your hand. We're having some fun now. Yeah.
So you said when you first started, you took out, I think, 16 credit cards, building up a lot of debt. Like, was that terrifying? Or were you just like, we're getting this job done no matter what?
It was definitely terrifying. It was horrific. I literally had credit card parties. Every time my credit card got paid off, I'd cut it and have a little party. I mean, we'd literally have a party that we just paid off a credit card. I didn't sleep at night. There's a reason why I was working 18-hour days. It was very, very daunting. Absolutely. Every day of my life, every minute, every second. sometimes till this day, I'm like, is my credit card full? Like, I kind of get scared to use my credit card because I think I have like PTSD from having my credit card declined so many times. So, absolutely.
Okay, I got one over here.
You got one over here, and then we have some questions at the table too.
So what creative innovation do you see impacting your industry? What's happening that is disruptive that you are paying attention to right now?
For construction, the 3D printing. They're printing 3D homes now. Yeah, there's a nonprofit in California printing 3D homes. I want to say it's called New Story. I might be wrong on that. And it's amazing. For $4,000, they're printing a home in Haiti. I don't know what all that covers, but you can see it on CNN. They print a home. It's incredible. There still has to be labor in that, so that gives me confidence because someone still has to dig in the dirt and put the utilities and pour the slab, and then they can let the machine come in.
Right.
But it doesn't scare me by any means. It just means that construction is going to be safer, and it's going to improve the efficiencies and of building faster and safe at the same time, because that's really important. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. That's really neat.
Ready?
The question I had is as an entrepreneur, you know, sometimes I find myself, you know, I started one thing in 2001 and grew my company end over end, but it always seems like I'm always wanting more. So, and I'm always going to my wife like, okay, listen to this. Don't say no. Just listen to what I gotta say. You just gotta listen. And she'll say, you know, and then I'll tell her about something. When do you just keep taking on challenges, or do you just, I mean, is it a point where you just say, I'm not gonna do anything else because I say that, but then I come up with another good idea, and then I want to do, now, it works though. I mean, it's working, but every time I come up with a good idea, it takes the money from the projects that I built up.
Are you drinking my Kool-Aid?
Oh, so okay.
I told a gentleman the other day, I feel like my new title is Collector of LLCs, because I have a ton of them, and they're going to start and fail. There's going to be some that stay around. I had a PR business for about 2 years.
Okay.
PR by D, and it was awesome, and it succeeded, and then it was just done. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I had one client. We had a ton of fun. She was awesome, and that was it. I was like, okay, you know,
because now
it's over.
Like now I'm working on a project, and my wife's just like, you know, I still have to keep things going. I have to keep her happy. So I'm like, okay, yeah.
You got to feed that monster, which is your business.
Yeah. So and everything is pulling towards that. So sometimes I look at them, and I'm the family. When I say them, and I'm like, man, they just don't know. They just don't know how close I am to running out of money, you know. But did you go through that? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, and I for all of you that have families at home, it was just me.
Yeah.
I have a husband and a child now, but when I was 27, 20 years old doing this, it was just me. I didn't have to feed another mouth. So my mom had 6 children. She was cooking for half of an army at the age of 22. I couldn't even make macaroni. So I mean, yes, it's stressful moments. What my encouragement to you is focus on the primary that is feeding your family.
That's good.
Focus on that first, make it perfect, and when it can run without you, and I want to say that from my experience, I made sure that my primary business paid my bills, put food on the table for the 18 employees that I have, and then I start thinking about the other business, because it's a really big burden that you have more than one family. For me, every night I go to bed, I have 18 families I have to feed. And so, Entrepreneurs Organization, we talk about gestalt and experiences, so that's why I stopped myself short. So in my experience, because that's all I do is give experience, I'm not going to tell you how to run your business, but in my experience, I had to make my primary business work without me before I could go start another LLC.
That's really good. Really good advice.
You couldn't make macaroni, but you could make a restaurant. Just gonna tell you.
Damn straight.
That's right.
Incredible story. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Couple of questions. So maybe you've answered this already, but from the time your sister took you to that, to the Secretary of State, to the time you got your first award, what was that time frame, number one? And number two, when you look at the construction business, it's dominated by males. So what obstacles did you face as a female entrepreneur in that arena?
Great questions. Thank you. So that first business, D-Design Inc., was opened up in 2004, October 2004. I started Design Build Group with my partner in May of 2007. So
Are we still good?
Here, switch. So 3 years. And I was working full-time and doing my MBA at night. And then I had D-Design on the side. So I had a 65-hour work week. At lunch, I would drive to my clients' houses. And then I would eat my dinner in the car and go to MBA school at night. And I spent my weekends doing D-Design Inc., which was my design firm. So it's all about the hustle. So yeah, I had a full-time job to fund D-Design Inc., which was losing money, hemorrhaging money, actually. And I was the only employee.
When did you get the award that...
So we opened up in 2007, and I think our Metro 50 was 2010.
3 years. About 3 years goes by fast. So the other question he asked was, what was it like being a female in a male-dominated
Thank you.
World?
It was tough. It still is tough. It still is very, very tough. I was at a luncheon today, and I shook a gentleman's hand and was talking to him, and I could see just that look of, oh, okay. And that's a lot of where my passion comes from, and my stubbornness. I love to prove people wrong, and it's more of that silent, right? I'm not going to go throw it in your face. It's more of each time we get to walk across the stage or we win that next client, it's just that personal win. I was like, yes, and perseverance. My business partner and I both have unique names, and my bonding agent in 2009 came to us and said, I was at the associate subcontractor meeting, and he said, everyone's talking about you guys. They don't know where you're from, and they're all talking about that you came from out of state, and they don't want to work for you. And he said, I assured them that both of you guys were born in Oklahoma, raised in Oklahoma. You're going to stay in Oklahoma. And all it took was one male to go do that. I still get called Mr., which is hilarious. People call me asking for, I have clients that refer to me. They call, they'll listen to my voicemail, leave me, Mr. Ramadan, you were referred by this person. Please call me back. I want to talk to you about my medical plaza. And I call him back, and a couple of times still get called Mr. Ramadan. So it's still very much so happening. And it's just like anything in today's world where minorities are being faced with, especially the Middle Eastern minority, and what's happening on the TV and the talk of terrorism. We faced that. I had subcontractors that they didn't want to work for us. They thought we were terrorists. And I just smile and tell them, I'm sorry you feel that way. This is my background. I was born and raised here. Yes, my parents immigrated here. They pay their taxes like the rest of us. We're hardworking people. They raised a successful family. And they're just people that we choose not to do business with. Our subcontractors are our team. We have 200 subcontractors, and so we let them know that they're an extension of our team. They're an extension of our team name and brand, and they're just like one of my teammates that we hire. If they don't want to play in our sandbox, it's okay. They can go play in somebody else's sandbox. It's their loss, not ours.
Great. I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah. Oh, we have two. Well, we'll do two. We're good.
Don't have a question, just wanted to thank you for stressing the importance of getting the accounting straight early on. I'm a CPA, so.
Oh, yeah. That's very important. I host monthly seminars now about building, and we have a CPA there because it's very interesting how established companies are going out there and doing tenant improvements and new buildings, and everything's on Excel sheet. I had everything on Excel sheet for a while too. And so yes, it's very important to at least get a QuickBooks and find a great CPA.
Okay, next question.
So you mentioned you having to interviews and then a test for people, or at least you had it. So how long it took them to make it, like, to do the test? Like, is it like a few hours or a few days?
It was a 30-minute test that was in my office. It was a 3-part test.
30 minutes, like.
It was like it was just a made-up test that I did. So because I came from a design background, I took a floor plan that I drew, and I would make things wrong on it and say, redline this floor plan. So I wanted to see if they knew how to read floor plans. And then I gave them a CAD test and had them draw an ADA bathroom. And then I gave them a wall of tile and told them to do a takeoff. And I'd give them a ruler. And one of my star estimators, at the end of the test, she goes, "Is this a trick question?" And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I didn't need a ruler. All I had to do was count the tiles." I was like, yeah, that was part of it. So I built in to see if they got that or not, because those are the little details that you have to have in construction. You don't necessarily always need a scale to measure something, right? If, like, ceiling tiles, those are 2 by 2. I can measure this room without a measuring tape. I just count the ceiling tiles. So yeah, what for us is just figure out how to test people, because sometimes in an interview, what they say to you is not what their capability is.
Okay, last question.
All right, I got a construction question for you. As a entrepreneur who wants to eventually build their own, place, like, who's never built a location before, like, what are, like, the first steps they should go through, and kind of what's, like, the first, like, process of just kind of, like, building your own place?
There you go. Well, actually, it's a great question. We host monthly seminars at our office that take care of that exact thing. What we do is, I believe your building dream team has 5 key people involved. Your CPA, your banker, broker, architect, and your GC. And every month we have a seminar, and I bring those experts, and we'll actually, for each person speaks for 5 minutes, so it's short. So 45 minutes, we'll kind of go through that plan. So you have to get the CPA, you talk to them about, do I lease or buy? What can I buy? What's my budget look like? Then you go to your banker and kind of go through that. Get with a broker and go find that space or buy the land. And at that point, we recommend hiring the GC and going the route of design build or construction management or negotiated bid. And that's when you'll work with your GC and architect to sum it up. But would love to have you at our seminar.
One more question. Quick.
Okay, fine.
Do you have a sister who went through dental school?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I thought
yes.
so.
Can you hear me? It's on?
Yeah.
Two of us work at the dental school, so I recognize the name.
Yes, that's my oldest sister.
Well, can we give a really big round of applause for Deemah?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for being here and just sharing your journey and the ups and the downs. And just, I think one of the things that I love about Startup Grind is the realness. Like, nobody sits up here and goes, well, I don't know what your problem is. I did just fine. Like, that's not the truth, and that's not reality. And so to hear people from Oklahoma City share their story, thank you for being a part of this tonight.
Thank you for having me.